So let's see, we ended up, we did collinear points and concurrent lines, correct? Then we did that example with the two parallel lines and the line going down and all that kind of stuff. All right, so definitions. So we are going to talk about coplanar points. Exciting stuff, isn't it? Coplanar. Well, we talked about what a plane is, correct? Yeah. So now we're going to talk about coplanar points. We talked about collinear points. What were collinear points? Points that did what? All lie, you can just say it. All lie on the same line. So this time, yes, Brielle. Okay, can you pass that up to me? And I got one more. I think there's probably a couple more on there.
Oh, we just put them at the bottom.
Oh, you did? Okay, just put it there then. Thank you. All right, so let's draw a plane. Do you remember how to draw a plane? It's kind of like a rectangle, but what do I do to it? Slant it, exactly. So I'm going to slant it. How many degrees you want to slant it? 60? Woo, that's too skinny. Let's I did ask though, didn't I? Let's just do it like 30. Makes it look nice. There we go. That's pretty good. All right, so there is what we call a plane. How do we label a plane? Do you remember from yesterday? How do we label it? What's that? Lowercase letter. What letter do you want to use? A. Very good. All right, so we'll call this plane A. All right, and then if I put some points in the plane, here's a point, here's a point, here's a point. How do I label those points? Or how do I name them? How do I name those points? What do I use to name those points? Uppercase, okay, uppercase. So let's call it X, Y, Z. Is that all right? X, Y, and Z. So, do you see how they're all inside of that crooked rectangle? Okay. We're actually going to do some stuff with that shape later on in the year. It's called a parallelogram. We're going to do a lot of stuff with parallelograms. All right. So anyway, that's free for you. I won't charge you for that one. Okay. So these 3 points are inside the plane. If I put a point right here, call that W, is that point in this plane? No, it's not. Now remember, a plane does not have edges. All right. It doesn't stop. A plane keeps on going. For instance, this whiteboard right here. It goes all the way up, and it looks like it stops right here, the whiteboard. But the plane that it's in keeps on going forever and ever, okay, in all directions. Not this direction, but up and down and that way, okay? You with me on that? But when we draw it on a two-dimensional paper, we can't have it going forever and ever and ever. So we do kind of have edges to it. But technically, a plane doesn't really have any edges. All right, but when we draw it, how can you draw something with no edges? It wouldn't look like anything, would it? So that's how we have to draw it. So when these points right here, they are considered in the plane. All right, this point right here would be considered what? Outside or out of the plane, exactly right. So what would that look like at this board? Remember the 3 points I put yesterday? They're still here. Okay, those points are on or in. You could say it either way. It doesn't matter which way you say it. You could say it's on the plane or in the plane. There we go. I can see it better that way. Everybody with me on that? But what if I had a point like on the ceiling? What if I jumped up and put a point on the ceiling? Would that point on the ceiling be in this plane? No, it wouldn't. That's kind of like that W right there. All right, so that W is like a point out here or a point over here or a point on the floor or a point on the ceiling, okay? That point is not on the plane. What if I put another point like right here? Then it's still on that same plane, isn't it? Because it's still on the board. Does that make sense? All right, so these points are in the plane or on the plane. However you want to say it, it doesn't make any difference. This point is not on the plane or it's not in the plane. So what points do you think are the coplanar points? Remember, collinear meant what? All the points that lie on the line. So what do you think coplanar means? All the points, they're on the same plane. Exactly right. So which points are on the same plane? X, Y, and Z. So if it said, list the coplanar points in plane A, you would just say X, comma, Y, comma, Z. Everybody understand that? Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Well, you would say, on this one right here, you would say point X, point Y, and point Z lie in plane A. All right, does that make sense? Because you did have some problems where you had to do that. We didn't really talk about that too much yesterday, but that's what you would do. Okay, yeah, we'll do that in a second. It's a good point. I do want to do that, okay, so don't forget that. But let me get through a couple things, then we'll go look at those homework problems, and then we'll try to talk about it, okay? But it's a good question. How would you describe this? You would say point W is what? Yeah, let's just say not in the plane, okay? So you would say point W is not in plane A. Does that make sense? So that's how you would write it out in words. You would say point W is not in plane A. Or you could say points X, Y, and Z are in or on plane A. Or sometimes they say plane A contains points X, Y, and Z. Still makes sense, doesn't it? So either you could say the points are on the plane, or you could say the plane contains those points. Either way, it's describing the same exact thing. There's not just one perfect exact answer for that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, good. Don't forget about the coplanar lines, because at the end of this, I do want to talk about that. About the homework problems, okay, that you started working on already. We will go over that, but I want to hit this first. What did I just say? Coplanar what? Coplanar, I said it super fast. Coplanar lines. Now, if you know what coplanar points are, coplanar lines, I'll tell you what, I was going to erase those, but let's just connect them. Let's make a different color. Let's go yellow. All right, so this is a line, so what needs to be on the end? Arrows. Remember yesterday I got a little bit lazy. I had a whole bunch of lines. I just didn't put the arrows on there. I was just running out of time. But if you have time, and if you're not lazy, put the arrows on it, okay? So that's a line right there. So that line, the 2 points that are on that line are in the plane, correct? So guess what must be true about the line? It's where? If the points are in the plane or on the plane, then the line is in the plane, right? The lines are the line is in the plane or on the plane, exactly right. So that line right there is on or in, again, however you want to say it. Sometimes I'll say on, sometimes I'll say in plane A. All right, so you would say line, which line is it? If I wanted to name the line, I'm not just going to say the yellow line. How would I name this line? Line XY. And how would I write that? I would write just a XY with what? Line on top. Very good. So that means line XY, we'll just write it out this time, is on. Now let's be real specific. Don't just say on the plane. I've named the plane, so let's name it. On plane what? Plane A. And we'll write the word plane in front of it and put plane A. So that's how you would describe that into words. And as you guys saw already in the book, in the homework, they ask you to do stuff like that. Okay? Sometimes they'll give you a description and you have to draw the picture. So if they gave you, watch this, and it doesn't have to look dead on exactly like that, but it should look really similar to it. Tell you what, let's drop this down a little bit just to get that picture out of the way. Okay. All right, so what if they gave you this description and you had to draw it? Well, we just saw it a second ago, so we should know how to draw the thing. But what would we do? Draw the plane, and I'm going to draw it kind of nice and transform 30 degrees again. Let's change it. Make it go negative 30. Go the opposite way. Is that good? All right. So there's a plane in plane A. So does it have to be in the top left? No, it just has to be in some corner. So I'll put it right there this time, just to mix it up a little bit. All right. And then line XY is on here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put a point X, put a point Y, and then I'm just going to connect them, all right, and put arrows. And tell you what, before I do that, you could, if you wanted to, keep it like that and put the arrows on, and that's perfectly fine. It's the same thing. Why is that the same thing? Because that's going to keep on going anyway, isn't it? Because of those arrows. So I could extend it outside of those lines of the plane, or I could keep it inside. It's fine. Just make sure you put arrows on that line, just to make sure that it's a line. Because I don't know if I said yesterday, maybe I did, but we are going to talk about a thing a little bit later on called a line segment, where it doesn't keep on going, where it starts and it stops. Okay, that would look different. It would not have arrows. We're going to talk about a thing called a ray. A ray has a starting point, but it keeps on going in just one direction. So we need to know which one's which. All right, a line keeps on going forever. That didn't quite hit the line. There we go. That's a little bit better. Does that make sense? So if they give you the words and you had to draw it, that's what you would draw. Pretty simple. Let's go back to this. Coplanar point. Oh, we already talked about that. Sorry. I thought we missed it. So coplanar points are all the points that lie inside the plane. We would call this point, we could call it we could say that point W is non-coplanar with points X, Y, and Z. It's in a different plane. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Or we just say it's not in the same plane. There's a lot of ways you could say it. All right, let's keep going. All right, this is kind of a weird one. Let's see. Should have something to demonstrate. This one is called skew. S-K-E-W. That's a weird word, isn't it? Skew lines. So skew lines are lines that are not in the same plane. All right, so let's draw a plane. I'll slant it a little bit. Let's go 20% this time. And let's draw two lines that are not in this plane. So I'm just going to, instead of drawing the nice straight line, I'm just going to make it easy. So we'll just call this line L. Is that all right? We'll call this plane M. And then I'll draw another line out here like this. And we'll call this line S. Okay? So what do you know about these two lines? Well, this line is in plane M, isn't it? This line S right here is not in plane M. So what's true about skew lines? Skew lines are two lines that are not in the same plane. Make sense? All right. So let me show you an example real quick. This closest thing I have. Oops, I'm dropping stuff all over the place. Here we go. All right, I got this box. I used to figures this summer I threw away like all these empty boxes I had in this room, and I should have kept at least one for this demonstration. Let's take a look. Pretend this is a plane. All right. Now remember, a plane in real life does what? It doesn't stop here. It does what? Keeps on going. So this represents this plane in space that keeps going that way, this way, and this way. Okay. But just use our imagination. So this is our plane. Here's a line. Do you see that line right there? Okay, that's on the plane. All right. And then let's find a line that is, what about this line right here? See that line right here where my finger's going? Okay. That doesn't touch this line, but are they skew? Because they are on the same plane, aren't they? They're not on this top plane, but they're on this side plane, aren't they? See this top line right here, this bottom line right here? They are on the same plane. Now, they never touch each other, so what do we think? You probably learned this already before geometry class. What's true about two lines that don't intersect each other? They're parallel lines, okay? They would not be skew lines. So where would the skew lines be? Well, let's take this top line again, and what about this line right here? They could be on the same plane, couldn't they? You see that? Because this line and this line are still on this plane right here. All right, so they wouldn't be skew, correct? So let's take this top line again, and maybe, what about this one over here on this back corner, going straight up? This line right here is on this plane and this plane. This line right here, well, let's just say this. This line goes up like this line goes like this. Are they on the same plane? Nope, completely different planes, okay? They'll never touch each other, they'll never intersect, and they're on completely different planes. So this is on one plane, this is on another plane, so they would be considered what kind of lines? Skew lines. I probably took more time than I need to talk about skew lines because we'll hardly ever talk about skew lines in here. We'll definitely talk about parallel lines. In fact, we have a whole entire chapter, just on parallel lines. Can you imagine? That's crazy, isn't it? Yep. So there's a lot to know about parallel lines. We're not really going to talk about it that much until this next little topic. So this next topic is about parallel lines. I kind of hinted about it. So let's talk about parallel lines. Now remember, skew lines will never intersect each other. And parallel lines will never intersect each other. But guess what's true about parallel lines that's not true about skew lines? Parallel lines do lie in the same plane, right? Remember I showed you before, the one on top and the bottom, they lied on that plane that was facing you, right? But they never touch each other, okay? They never intersect. We don't usually say never touch each other. That's not a very geometric way of saying it. We just say that they don't intersect. So parallel lines are in the same plane, but do not intersect. So jot that down. I'm not going to write all that down. You can write that, okay? They're in the same plane. What word did we use? Even instead of saying they're in the same plane, what's one word that we could say? Not collinear, coplanar, right. We say that they're coplanar lines that do not intersect. That would be a really concise, short definition for that. Coplanar lines that do not intersect. So let's draw a couple parallel lines. So there's a line right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste it so I know it's going the same direction. Again, technically, what should they have on the ends? Arrows, because they're lines. And we'll call this line A. We'll call this one line B. And line A and line B, they're in the same plane, all right? They're on that flat surface right there.
Hi, can I have Annabella Valley and Isaac and Lafayette down to guidance, please?
Are they in here?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Okay. So lines A and B, they don't touch each other, but they're in the same plane. They are coplanar, all right? They're in the same plane. Now, we have a little symbol, okay, for this. Did I talk about parallel lines yesterday? Yeah, I think I did. I showed you the symbol yesterday, didn't I? Okay, I'll show it to you again. All right, so if I wanted to say that they're parallel to each other, there's line A, parallel. What's parallel look like? Like two lines up and down like that? Did I show you that yesterday? Yeah. Okay. I teach all these classes, and sometimes I forget what I say from one class to the other. So line A is parallel to line B. That's right, because I remember doing this. How did I show that they're parallel? Because just looking at it, I might guess that they're parallel, but what if this was off by 1/10 of a degree? There's no way that you'd be able to tell that, would there? All right, but how do we show that in geometry?
The arrow in the middle.
Yep, put the arrow in the middle. It doesn't have to be dead in the middle, just somewhere in between the two, okay? Or between the ends. Everybody got that? So that means that they're parallel to each other. So that's pretty important right there. You could also have parallel planes. Now, I'm not very good at drawing this stuff, even with this program. I should have, well, I don't know. Let me see. Give me a second. I don't think you'll be able to see this on the YouTube, but let me see. Geometry shapes. There we go. Oh, there's some shapes. Let me see if I got one that, this is for another section. Figures. I don't have what I want in those. So, I don't know. Let's just do a little Google search and we'll just copy and paste it. And geometry, we'll put box. I don't know if I want that. Box, shape, geometry. I don't know. Let's see what we get. Yeah, there we go. Ah, there we go. That's super simple right there. Let me just, wonder if I just copy it and paste it. Let's see. Whoa, that's a big one, isn't it? All right, let's make that a little bit smaller so it fits. There we go. All right. There it is. That wasn't too long. Didn't take too long. Now I got to click on this so I can draw again. There we go. All right, what are we talking about? Parallel lines and parallel planes. So if, there we go. And let's go with a different color. Let's go red. If you wanted to, you could, I'm so terrible about drawing these things, even the dots, but this would go like this. This would go like that. You ever see this before? Yeah, am I doing this right? I probably went over too far. This should have gone, it's probably, it shouldn't go all the way to the top like that. I don't know, how should I draw this thing? Anyway, you get the idea, right? Here's the bottom of the corner. Then what's this do? Does it go like that? Like from here to here? No, doesn't go like that. Anyway, picture a box, right? If I had a big old box right here, you got the top, right? And you got the bottom of it. Everybody see that? The bottom of it, it goes here, 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 okay? So those are two planes, all right? You got the top plane, you got the bottom plane. They are, what do you think? Do you think they'll ever touch each other if it's a perfect square box? No, they'll never touch each other. So the top and the bottom would be considered what? Parallel, not just lines, but planes, right? So they would be parallel planes. This side right here, see that? See the left side of the box? See the right side of the box? They would also be parallel to each other. The front is this part right here, and the back would go from here to here to here. Okay, the front and the back would be parallel to each other, wouldn't they? All right, so as long as they're right angles and stuff like that, that's what a parallel plane basically is. For instance, just a second. For instance, the ceiling and the floor, if this building is built correctly and the walls are at right angles, then the floor and the ceiling would also be parallel planes. This wall right here and that wall right there, they both go in the same direction. They'll never touch each other as long as they're completely square, and they keep on going, they'll never touch each other. So that means they're parallel planes. Question?
So if you see the left side plane, and then say there's like one in the back there,
Yeah.
so they're intersecting, right?
Well, the left, and let's do the right and the front since we see all the lines, okay? So like this right plane would be this one right here, okay? And this would be the front. Oops, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, you get the idea. So you got the right and the front. Would they be parallel planes?
No.
They would not, because they intersect. Where do they intersect? Right here, don't they? And they intersect. How do two planes intersect each other? What do they form when the two planes intersect each other? They form a what? What is this? They form a line, just a line, okay? For instance, that wall right there and this wall right here, they intersect each other in that corner. What do they form when they intersect each other? They form a line straight up and down, okay? So they would not be parallel to each other, but they are intersecting planes, all right? We will work with intersecting planes and that kind of stuff. We will talk about what is formed by two planes that intersect. It intersects at a line.
Well, I was looking at the homework, and it did ask what it would be called if that did happen.
Yeah, it would just be intersecting. They would just be intersecting. Yep. Yeah.
It says here, what?
Let me get the book out so I can see what you're saying first. Hold on. What page are you on?
Page 9.
Page 9. All right, let me take a quick look at it so I know what you're saying. Okay, what number are you talking about? 14. Name the intersection of plane P. Oh, okay, because they put letters there. So when they say name the intersection, so if this was, I don't know, if that was, see that right there is point A, that right there is point B, let's say C, D, E. I'm going way out of order, but that's okay, like this. So if it's saying what is the intersection of this plane right here, we'll call it plane A. We'll call this one plane B, right? What is the intersection? The intersection is the line that's formed. So if they actually put points in there, what is that line? In this case right here, it's line BC, isn't it? Right. So you would just look on there, try to find out where the planes intersect. They intersect at a line, just find 2 points on that line and just name those 2 points. Make sense? Okay. So yeah, the first time I did this, it wasn't very specific because it didn't have any points labeled. But that problem 14 definitely has points labeled. You just have to look at it, figure out your 2 planes, figure out where they intersect. They intersect in a line. So you just name the line where they intersect. Does that make sense? Let's go back to the one you said earlier about drawing the stuff. Let's do this one, number 8. Number 8 we didn't really talk about, but number 8 is definitely something that we want to talk about. So let me draw a plane. So this will, I think I told you yesterday, I'm pretty sure this is on a quiz and a test. All right, so this is a good one to do. I don't know. Like I said, my memory's pretty awful. But let's see if I can remember if we talked about this or not. I'll just use the stuff that they use in here. What they call that? Plane F, right? They put it down on the bottom right. And then, now here's what they do. This is a little different. Let me just move this up a little bit. Let me do this in red, this line. Make it pop a little bit. So watch, they go to there, okay? And they put a point right here, and they name that capital L. This is line N, so that's a lowercase n. And then they do something we haven't talked about. They do this dot, dot, dot thing about right there, and then they continue that line. I'm trying to get it to match up. It's not perfect. That's pretty close. Doesn't that kind of look like number 8? Okay. And they ask you to describe this. So what in the world's going on? What in the world is happening with that dot, dot, dot? Well, here's what's happening. Here's your box. This box, well, this is your plane, okay? Not necessarily a box. It's just a plane. Let's say this is your plane right here, okay? Everybody see that? Pretend it's flat. It doesn't come out here like this. Here's your line. So what's happening is the part that you see from the top to the L, the top is coming down like this, and it's actually hitting. Where is it hitting the plane? At where? At point L. Very good. Guess what the dot, dot, dot is representing? Right, it's going through. It's the part that you can't see. So if I angle this at a certain way, there's a part that you can't see this pen, can you? Going through the box. So the part that's dot, dot, dot is the part that you cannot see. And then when it gets straight again with the non-dots, okay, just a solid line, that's the part you see coming out the other end. All right? Does that make sense? So what you're seeing here is this. A line's hitting here, and it's continuing out the other end. It's kind of stabbing a piece of paper. I usually use a piece of paper, and I probably should have for this. Okay? So let's say it goes, it's not going to fit through that hole, but you get the idea, right? Here's your plane. Let me get it. And then it hits here, and then it comes out like this. The dotted line represents the part that you can't see. It's kind of hidden by the plane, but then you eventually see it coming out the other side. That's when it gets to be a solid line again. All right? Does that make sense? All right, so on a test or a quiz, they could give you the picture and you have to describe it, or they could describe it and you have to draw the picture. So let's describe this thing. So is line N on plane F? No. If it's on it, it would be like this. It's going through it. So what do we say when it hits it, when it touches it? It intersects it. That's right. So that's the geometry word we're going to use. So this line, what is this line called? Line what? Line N intersects, what is it intersecting? Plane F. Where is it intersecting? At, okay, we would say at point L. And that's what you would say. All right, does that make sense? So line N intersects, and how do you know it intersects? Because you got that dot, dot, dot. If it was completely solid all the way through, what would that mean? It lies on the plane. All right, that would be different. If it was solid all the way through, this is in real life what would be happening. It'd be that line was actually on the plane, the whole entire line was. But that dot, dot, dot part represents that it's going through it. Okay, right at that point L. Can you visualize that? All right. Because when you're working with three-dimensional stuff on two-dimensional surfaces like paper, this computer screen, it's you gotta think a little bit outside the box, right? And so that's what's happening. All right, so line L intersects plane F at point L. Or did I say line L? Sorry, line N, okay? Line N intersects plane F at point L. That's how you would say it. But I could give you those words. I could give you, line A intersects plane B at point C. You draw it, okay? I've had so many people, I'm telling you right now, let's do a different color. I have so many people drawing this. Is that intersecting? Even if you put a point here and a point L, that just means point L is on your line. So that means, the green one means line, we'll call it A. We'll call it line A lies where? On plane F. And you don't have to say anything about point L because it doesn't really make any difference if it's there or not, does it? You see the difference between the two? So this part right there means it intersects, and that's the word that we want to use. Don't say it goes through, don't say anything else but intersects, okay? That's the word that we want to use. Does that help? Is there anything else on the homework that you've seen that you want to clear up real quick before I stop? Sometimes those pictures get a little weird, like 13 to 18, it looks a little crazy, but what is it basically? It's basically a box in the corner of a room, right? Would you agree with that? So you got that box. It's like you took a box and you put it in the corner of the room, and you've got the bottom, you got the floor, you got one wall, you got another wall, and that's basically what's going on right there. All right. Let's see. Get my notes. Did I tell you what we're doing? We're just doing it up to 18, right? Yeah. Has anybody actually finished all those now? Yeah, I did. Good. I did. All right, I'm going to write it down one more time in case anybody's watching this video. So it's pages 8 and 9 and 1 through 18. So that will be due tomorrow, and I will collect it tomorrow. Here's a reminder. Everybody listen real quick before you pack up. Here's a reminder. Here's your paper. I'm not going to do this every day, but a few people were not here yesterday. We talked about this. And here's your loose leaf notebook paper, right? So there's your 3 holes for the loose leaf notebook paper. What are you going to put up top here? First and last name. I'll just put F and L. First and last name, okay? You must have a clean edge, all right? So don't rip it out of a spiral notebook unless you got the perforations and it's nice and clean, all right? I don't want it all raggedy. Be proud of your work, okay? When you turn your work in, you should be proud of it. It should be written as nicely as you could write it, and it should look as nice as you could possibly get it. It's got to be done in pencil. Is there anything else I'm missing? Oh, the lesson, put section. This is section 1-2, so make sure you put the section number on there. It could be on the top right, it could be in the middle, it could be on the left. I don't care. Just somewhere right above that. I don't know. Is that a red line that they put there on paper? I can't even remember. Whatever it is. Okay, they got some line there, right? Yeah. And so just make sure all that is at the top, and then you just do your work. What's something weird that somebody did last year that I've never seen before in all my years of teaching? I had never seen anybody do a homework like that. What'd they do? Like they put it in some kind of weird order. They didn't go like 1 through 18 or whatever. They went, I forget what they did. Nah. I will eventually start sometimes give you some odds. Sometimes I'll say just do the odds or whatever. This time you're doing them all. I don't know. They did something weird. If I think of it, I'll let you know. But, just put number 1 and then put the answer. Say what?
You don't think of it when you're in bed tonight.
Probably. Maybe when I'm cheering for the Eagles, watching Saquon run for a touchdown. I'm like, yeah, I thought of that thing. It's not that important. But, just number them 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I forget what they did. And here's another thing. I probably won't take points off for this. But I have some people, like, starting on the back of the paper. To me, this is the front of the paper. Isn't it to you? You got the dots on the left. I had people last year starting on the back of the paper. I thought that was weird. All right? Yeah, let's do normal stuff. All right? So just do it normal. I know some people just want to be different. That's cool. And I'm all for being different. Everybody's got their personality. But I want all the homeworks kind of looking the same. All right? So no personality should be showing through on your homework. All right, enough of that. Everybody cool? All right.